Well, hello everyone. Welcome in. I'm Taffany and this is Tika's Gardens. Well, today we are inside. It's a little cold out today. It was in the 30s this morning when I woke up, and we're kind of now in the afternoon, and it is like in the 40s. It's supposed to get up to about the 50s, not too warm today, and we have another day tomorrow that's going to be a little cold, and then it's going to start warming back up to the 70s again after that. But for now, we're inside. We have a fire, and we are just going to enjoy this fire today and just relax here inside of the house. I know as we get into the winter, we think about things we, want to do when the weather gets warm. And one of the things that I want to do is on my bucket list is I've been to London before, but to go to London to visit, well, not just London, but England in general, to visit some of the grand gardens and things they have. Usually in May, they have their big garden show at their big garden there, the Arboretum and Garden place there, and then they have the castles and grand estates. Their gardens open up in May as well, and so there's a lot of private tours and big tours that you can do of all the gardens of England and things like that. And it's my goal, not so much that it has to be a part of a tour, but I would love to go see some of the really old estates and gardens and things like that. And I love watching movies like Pride and Prejudice and Sense and Sensibility, and it even makes me want to go turn one on when I get off of this recording here with you to go watch one of the movies. But I love to watch those. And in the one movie, Sense and Sensibility, where they're walking through the gardens, just kind of talking, and it's just all these beautiful gardens. It's just so they're formal but so beautiful and peaceful, and just I would love to just walk through those. And I know a lot of people who are into gardening. It's just really your passion. You would love to go see some of those grand gardens as well. But one thing I feel like we here in the US forget is that we have our own castles and grand gardens. We may not have, well, we may have just as many, actually. We may not have as many as they're much more well known, but we definitely do have quite a few here. We've got the Hearst Castle in California, which is now called, and don't quote me on this, but I think it's called something like La Incantata or Incampata or something like that. But there's the Hearst Castle with beautiful views, not a lot of formal gardens, but has some beautiful views. In the Northeast, like New York area, Massachusetts, so on, you have a lot of old estates and grand gardens up there as well. But one of our most well-known castles and gardens, and I'm calling it a castle because it is of the scale of the British castles and gardens. But one of our very own is Biltmore Estate. And when I say our, I mean what's here in the US, a US landmark. I've been to the Biltmore Estate a couple of times, and I really enjoyed myself. But I'm a person who loves history, and of course, obviously, I love gardening. So going to see it was a lot of fun for me. So I kind of want to talk about some of the great places here in the US that we can go to. I'm not going to give a big long list. I'm going to stick with a couple that I have been to that I really enjoyed, and I think would be for gardeners who really love gardening, and those who love to be out in nature and stuff, I think you would really enjoy these places as well. And you don't have to hop over the pond, so to speak, to go see those there. This is just as grand and beautiful as the British Gardens. Now, I had to take some notes because I have 100 million things in my brain going on right now, and I knew I would forget stuff. So I have very short notes, not detailed notes, but just a few little facts that I wanted to give out. So the first garden and estate I want to talk about is the Biltmore Estate. It is located in Asheville, North Carolina, in the Smoky Mountains. Now, I spent a good chunk of my adult life in the mountains in Tennessee, East Tennessee. And I really don't enjoy living anywhere but there. I'm here in Texas. You go where you have to go. But where you have to go is not always the same as where you want to go. And I would love to move back to Tennessee and live right near the mountains so that when I'm laying in bed, I can look out and see the mountains in the distance. I just love that area. I love being out in nature, taking walks and things like that. When I would go horseback riding and to see the beautiful mountains, off in the distance while you're riding horses and stuff. I just love that. And I know that's kind of confusing for people because a lot of people know that I was born and raised in Chicago. And, Chicago now is, Chicago has always been Chicago, but yeah, it's gotten a different reputation, now. But yeah, I enjoy the conveniences of the city, but I'm definitely more of a country girl. I love nature. I love going on walks and hikes and things like that. And fishing, gardening, just if it's outdoors, I love it. I love going down to the Tennessee River. I would just go down there and just sit with friends by myself. I don't know, what can I say? I just love East Tennessee because it has everything outdoors that you would want to do. And the Biltmore is in Asheville, North Carolina, which was maybe 45 minutes to an hour from the part of Tennessee that I lived in. So you could go there for the day and go back home. So I've been there a couple of times, and I just enjoyed myself. The gardens, they have a beautiful rose garden there that you have to see. They have a winery, a restaurant, and now I see that they have an inn there that you could stay at on the estate. But Biltmore Estate is still a private owned family estate, owned by the Biltmore family, and it is on 8,000 acres. So it is huge. And, you can walk through the formal gardens, but you can kind of wander off also to, at least when I went, to areas that were kind of almost felt like you were walking kind of on, some trails in the mountain. It was very, very peaceful and enjoyable at the same time. They have stables there and things like that. Now, the Biltmore Estate construction began in 1889. I'm looking at my notes, guys, okay? So the construction began in 1889, and they hired Frederick Law Olmsted as the landscape architect for this property. Now, Olmsted is the co-designer of Central Park, Prospect Park, both in New York, Elm Park in Worcester, Massachusetts, and a few other parks around New York and other parts of the country. So he was a very well-known landscape architect back at that time, and I learned about him years ago. I think when I was in school or whatever. So I'm familiar with Olmsted. The Biltmore Estate, worked on it for 6 years. It took them 6 years to build it. They finished it in 1895 and it opened. And it has 35 bedrooms, 43 bathrooms, and 65 fireplaces. And another thing about the Biltmore Estate is it was one of the first houses in the country to have indoor electricity. Now, keep in mind the light bulb, not long before Biltmore Estate was, built, the light bulb was on display at the World's Fair, and it had this big grand display there, which introduced the country and the world to the light bulb. And so the Vanderbilt, when they were building this, because of the World's Fair and the grand display that it had, wanted the electricity, the light bulb in their home. So it's one of the first to have that, which is fun little piece of history there. But the Biltmore Estate, as I said, is still family owned. So we are familiar with some of the Vanderbilts, like what's his name on CNN, the news anchor. I just went completely blank. We know Timothy Oliphant as well. He was in Scream and the TV show and Die Hard and some other movies and stuff. These are descendants of the Vanderbilt. Not Tucker Carlson. I'll think of the name later. But anyway, I've got something in my eye. But yeah, so it's still a family-owned property that is on 8,000 acres with beautiful gardens. The building itself is so grand that it is of the scale of a castle, and it is in equivalence to elegance and grandeur as any of the old well-known estates and castles in England. And when you kind of pull into the Biltmore, when you're entering there, if you think of in the movie Pride and Prejudice, when they went to visit Mr. Darcy's property, and when they pulled in and it had this big massive grass field area, and this long drive that looked like it in itself may have been a mile. And I have to ask you to forgive me, but I literally got like a hair in my eye. But the drive was like, almost felt like it was a mile long and stuff. That's kind of how the Biltmore feels, with the big round pond in the front. So it's like almost exactly like that from the movie. And you just see this big massive property just sitting off kind of up, on the hill. And when you're inside and you go out on a balcony or whatever, all you see around you are the mountains. So you get nature, and you get these beautiful formal gardens as well. And you get some of more naturalized walking paths with rhododendrons and azaleas, and it looks like it's a part of the mountains, but it was actually part of the design that Olmsted did, which helps it to blend in with the mountains and looks like it belongs there. And it's just such a beautiful property, and inside and out. And I think it is a place that you would enjoy for historical reasons, and if you're a gardener and a nature person, for outdoor reasons as well. It's a place you could take your family and kind of get a combination of history and nature all in one. Make it a trip, stay there so you can spend a couple days. I've been there, like I said, twice. My first trip, I spent more time indoors than outdoors. My second trip, I did the tour again, but it was more of a quick tour, and I was outside more. So I, really spent more time outside. I think I probably spent more time total on my first trip, and I spent more time walking kind of more of the longer paths and stuff than in the formal garden. But I would recommend heading to Asheville, North Carolina if you want to visit a castle estate style garden, property with formal gardens and stuff. Definitely try the Biltmore out. And not far from Biltmore, up the street, was the North Carolina Arboretum. And it's not as big, obviously, as 8,000 acres. It's not as big as the Biltmore property, but it is a very lovely place. Very fun to kind of go walk through, spend a couple of hours in, maybe pack a lunch and sit down and eat and just enjoy the beautiful garden that they have there, that they change out with different flowers, giving it a different look. It was a very fun place. All of this is all very close together within Asheville, North Carolina. So it's really a place for a nature lover and gardener where they can go and have a couple of places to visit in one trip. So you definitely would want to give yourself a couple of days or more to be able to enjoy, both. And staying on the East Coast, because as I said, I lived there for so long, we're going to head south to the very southern foothills of the Smoky Mountains, to Callaway Gardens. When I visited, it was Callaway Gardens. It's now Callaway Resort and Gardens. And it is one of the funnest places that I went to. My husband and I went, we walked around. It's a place that, again, you're going to need a couple of days in order to, or more. Because you get distracted. You're going to need a few days to really see the whole place and enjoy. It is now a resort with multiple different places that you can stay. It has one of the first inland white sand beaches. The beach is old. It's not newer. It's been there for a while. Now, Callaway Gardens was started by Kaysen and Virginia Callaway. They would travel from the city, because Callaway Gardens is located, by the way, in Pine Mountain, Georgia, which is just outside of Atlanta. And they would travel from the city out to the country on the weekends just to get away, wind down, have some peace. And they loved the area so much that they purchased property there. They found a red azalea there on the property, which in that area, which is very rare and native to that specific part of the country. And they wanted to preserve that along with other things in the area. So they planted hundreds of azaleas and, just created this big garden over time, which opened in 1952 to the public. And it is 2,500 acres. So nowhere near the size of a Biltmore estate, but it is still big enough that you would need a couple of days or so to visit. And it has so many different activities there, from biking and canoeing. They have little lakes there, that you can go fishing and just enjoy yourself. And because it's near the mountains, you can also take a trip to, travel north to the mountains and just enjoy yourself. When I was there with my husband, we got so sidetracked that we didn't even get to cover the whole place, because they had these ping pong tables out that were like sitting up on an upper landing where you could look out at the big expanse of grass and gardens over here on this side and stuff. And they had several ping pong tables, and so we played ping pong, and it became very competitive. Now, I danced when I was younger, and I was somewhat athletic, but not a big athlete. My husband's not a very big athlete either, but he forgets that he's a male and I'm a female, and he doesn't grasp the concept of, well, she's not that good at this, at least let her win one. He feels like he has to win every time, even against me. I don't know what's wrong with him. He needs some work in that area, because he was just so competitive, which of course, you know, if you're playing with a competitive person, it raises your competitive level as well. So we got engrossed in ping pong, but it was so fun to be outside playing ping pong with beautiful gardens and beautiful scenery around. It was so much fun. And, you know, after ping pong, we did walk around some more. And we got to this one garden that had this arch that was made of like sticks, like woods, you know, well, sticks are wood, but were made of like sticks that you would get from the ground, just kind of woven together and made into this gorgeous arch. And I always remembered that and always said, I want something like that in my garden. But I want to go back. It is more, there's a lot more resorts around the area now, so it's really turned into a place where you can vacation. So kind of like going to Biltmore, but with a lot more activities. And I just think that we have beautiful gardens, because their gardens are beautiful. They have a butterfly garden and all that stuff. I really love Callaway Garden. It is probably #1 on my list. And Biltmore, I would say, is #2 on my list. I have visited gardens in California, Louisiana, here in Texas, and, you know, Georgia, other gardens other than Callaway, in Tennessee and Illinois. And so I have visited other gardens, smaller, medium, larger. These are my 2 favorite places. And I wanted to bring this up because, like I said, we think of gardens and we think of castles and grand gardens, and we automatically think of England. We don't think of the US. We don't think that we could come to any place in the US and find beautiful gardens, but you can. Now, I find that a large number of the old estates are going to be on the East Coast because, of course, with colonialization and the, you know, the development of this country, it's going into its industrial age and all that stuff like that. That was all east. You know, the country started on the East Coast and expanded west. So you're going to have a lot more older estates on the East Coast with a lot of the grand gardens and things like that. So I would say to do a little research and find some of these older estates. And there are several that are open to the public where you can go and view the estate and the gardens. And we can do that here in the US and not just have to, you know, hop over the pond to England and do it as well. That should always be on the list. And if you can do it, great. But if not, we've got some beautiful gardens and a lot of beautiful natural scenery here, from Yosemite National Park to Grand Canyon to the Smoky Mountains to the Rocky Mountains to the White Mountains. We've got it all here. We've got everything from desert to lush landscape. So you really wouldn't even have to leave the US in order to experience all the different types of climates and terrain and different kinds of gardens. So I hope this inspires you to make some family plans or plans just for yourself to go visit some of these places when it gets warm in the spring and summer. But for now, I am going to enjoy my fire. I'm going to get myself some lunch and relax for the rest of the day and probably turn on one of my favorite movies, either Sense and Sensibility or Pride and Prejudice. I love those movies. And watch some old British movies. But in the meantime, guys, I will see you in the next video. Thank you for joining me today, and have fun in your new year coming up, because New Year's is in a couple of days. So enjoy your New Year's Eve, your New Year's Day, and I wish you the best in 2026. All right, guys, see you next time. Bye.